Alright, so let's talk about Donkey Kong Bonanza. I know that I'm really late to the party, but honestly, I didn't think that my video would be noticed anyway. So many people got early access to the game, and there were reviews coming out like when the game dropped. So I figured it was more important that I actually take a week or so to actually beat the game before I review it. Even though, if I'm honest, that doesn't always make sense, because when you do review a game, you don't want to give out any spoilers. So any late game information on the story or game mechanics, you almost don't want to give out. So it's sort of like, well, what's the point? Well, there is a point, and that is, if the game really falls off or gets boring, that is something I think the consumer should definitely be aware of. I don't know how many games I've played, and during the last, 10 hours or so, or 5 hours, I just wished for the game to end. Now, I can be clear and honest about this, but Donkey Kong, it's definitely not that way. In fact, I honestly felt like it was the exact opposite with Donkey Kong Bonanza. But anyway, let's get into it. Before we do that though, please hit that like and subscribe button, help this channel grow. It means the world to me. I can't thank y'all enough. With Donkey Kong Bonanza, we should start off on the story. It's sort of the main point of the game, right? And in this game, Donkey Kong is part of a mafia group called the Goodfellas. He's looking to join the group that will eventually turn against... Oh wait, no, that's not it. Oh no, okay, Donkey Kong is part of a mining company that has the ability to drill a bomb into the middle of an asteroid. Guess what? Earth's under attack by a giant asteroid, and only Donkey Kong and his Oh wait, no, that's not it either. Oh, basically bad guys have taken a bunch of bananas and Donkey Kong wants them back. And honestly, that is the basic premise of the story. Now, it is true that Donkey Kong and Paulina live on the surface, and during this heist, Donkey Kong and Paulina end up going below surface, and they basically want to get back up there, or at least Paulina does. Donkey Kong's not so important to him, it's more about the bananas, but lo and behold, a means to an end for them both is tracking down these bananas and actually going further down the sub-layers of this world. And if I put my critic's hat on, I can say that this story is hollow, traditional, simplistic, but honestly, it works. Just like tracking down the bananas, the story is sort of just a means to an end, and the end is gameplay. That's what they're trying to get you into. Can you imagine Donkey Kong in like some deep, dramatic role? No. Although if I'm honest, I don't like that they do portray Donkey Kong as like kind of a dumb ape, especially in his world where everyone else seems to have more emotions and a little bit more depth to them. Again, I'm not asking for the world here, just a little bit more than me want bananas. Like that's sort of Donkey Kong in the game. He really doesn't have much more to him, at least for a good chunk of the game. But again, let's be clear, the main attraction to this is gameplay. So how is the gameplay? Well, let's look at the main mechanic, which is essentially, hey, everything in the environment is fully interactive. And when I say interactive, I mean you can basically just break everything. And for the most part, that is true. There is like a original skeleton, if you will, of the levels that you cannot break, but honestly, you would prefer it that way. At the end of the day, if there's just so much to break, and the fact that you could basically zero out a level, that would really ruin it, I think. So I do appreciate the fact that there is a skeleton, because honestly, I found like my OCD going off the radar when there was a lot of things to interact with, and my sonar wasn't all the way leveled up and I couldn't just find stuff. I was breaking walls and breaking everything I could to try to find more bananas and hidden treasures. Honestly, adding hours into my gameplay. It's funny, once I upgraded my sonar, which I'll explain that in a second, my time spent in each level dropped dramatically, and my gameplay experience went from slightly overwhelming to actually quite linear. And even though an updated sonar, which helped me find items in the walls or in the ground, did cut down on exploration, I actually preferred that, because while it is cool to smash your way through a level, it also can get tedious after a while. So, as I mentioned, there is more than just punching and smashing and rolling, and all of Donkey Kong's main abilities. There are a lot of skills, and one of them is one I mentioned, sonar, which does work with the hand slap, and it basically works as a sonar for Donkey Kong to find hidden items throughout the level. It'll show up, like, you can see them off in a distance as they're glowing, and basically you just have to punch your way through to find them. But that's not the only skill that DK gets, as you get to use the terrain as transportation, whether it be ripping up the ground and using it to surf on, or slamming it down to boost you to jump higher. Also, there's just the ability to raise some of DK's like base stats, and of course there's when you go Bananza mode and you're able to transform into like a different creature or like a super powered ape. All of those different forms also have skills and abilities as well, and just the ability to make your transformation last longer, which for me was a big deal because I didn't use my transformation that much for probably the first half of the game, as I was kind of saving it up for when I would need it. But let me reassure you that you can use it quite a bit, and there's always ways to fill up that gauge. The most important one, or the most efficient one, is money, gold. And there is gold everywhere throughout the level, so they really do try to encourage you to use your transformations as much as possible, and there really is no penalty for using them often. Like, I had feared that this was a only so often type of ability that you should use, and then when you really needed it, the gauge wouldn't be full, but this like never happened to me. And while we're on the topic of Donkey Kong's skills and abilities, I also want to talk about combat a little bit, especially as it pertains to bosses. You see, there is a few different ways that Donkey Kong can engage with different bosses, and a few different mechanics that were slightly surprising, but for the most part, it's kind of a walk in the park. Rarely ever did I ever feel like I was gonna run out of extra lives, or that the enemy was just too much for me and I couldn't take down that boss. I had to re-strategize. You know, typically if I had any issues, it was because I didn't fully understand the mechanic and maybe I would die once, and the second time I figured it out and it was no problem. But yeah, I feel like maybe they went a little too easy on this game, especially when, like I said, it comes to the bosses, or even like the last boss, which I don't want to get into. It's cool, don't get me wrong. Like, the actual showdown is pretty badass, but the actual fight isn't that difficult. But don't mistake me for saying that this game is boring or simplistic and it's just too easy. No, in fact, so much of the actual gameplay is just a lot of fun. Like, that's really what it's wrapped up in. You can essentially just sort of turn off your brain when it comes to combat or platforming or even the story. You don't even have to pay attention to it, and you know pretty much what's going to happen. But there is definitely a world where just having fun is worth it. And I think that's really what Donkey Kong Bananza really does, is just capitalize on having fun. The other thing that I think is really impressive about the game is its performance. With the whole environment essentially being destructible, and Donkey Kong being able to cause so much chaos by flinging rocks everywhere and punching stones halfway through the level, or the fact that you can transform during pretty much any situation, all of the chaos that a bunch of enemies are going to bring on, I never felt like the Switch 2 was ever overpowered. I never had like a noticeable drop in frame rate, while it also maintained the visuals of a really good looking game. So I can't say enough about that. I think that this is one of those ways that Nintendo just makes great games for Nintendo products. For me, it's still not the most impressive game on the Switch 2. I still think that's Cyberpunk, because I do believe that it's a little bit easier to maintain at least like frame rate and all of that when the graphics are good. Like, the game looks great, but it's cartoonish, you know? Like, when you're looking at something like Cyberpunk and you're seeing like lifelike graphics and maintaining performance, that's really impressive. Not to take back from what Donkey Kong does, because as I said before, it's about fun, and you can only really have fun in a more animated type world, especially in that sort of context. And yes, I mean the context of a little girl riding a giant gorilla around as they smash through a planet's core to find giant crystallized bananas. I get it. But I will say, one place that I was really impressed with was the music. Not to say that I'm not impressed with the graphics, don't get mad at me. I did like the graphics. I think it was great for this game. But the music is one of those tried and true things with Donkey Kong. I think beyond everything that Donkey Kong has ever really offered, music has been the one thing that I think all Nintendo fans can agree. DK's music is always towards the top of any Nintendo IP, and this one does not fall short. And if you really enjoy a certain song, it's pretty cool because you can collect it in the form of an album that will be out in the world, and it's just one of the other collectibles that you can get. But it's nice to have this one specifically because while running around in an area, you can find a little rest area where you can pay a small fee and get a cave built for you with a nice bed and a record player, where you can kind of just chill out and listen to some of your favorite DK songs. So the final question is, Is it worth it? Would I recommend picking it up? If you're a Nintendo fan, for sure. If you're a Donkey Kong fan, of course, you probably already have it. But if you're more of just like a hardcore gamer and you're looking for like that Breath of the Wild experience, you know, the one that really took Zelda from being, you know, almost a cutesy game to being over the top, realistic, and something that almost every gamer can appreciate, this is not it. This is not the Donkey Kong moment for him to appeal to the hardcore gamers or anything like that. This is just a really fun experience with some pretty cool abilities. And I know that this might sound crazy to some Nintendo fans, but I would probably grade this at about an 8.8 out of 10, which I think is a generous score for the game. Because when I compare it to any other games that are in that same genre, I actually think I would prefer Kirby and the Forgotten Land over Donkey Kong Bonanza. And that doesn't mean that Donkey Kong isn't awesome or isn't fun. It's just saying that, like, this is where it sits. It's a fun experience. If you have a Switch 2, you might as well get it because it doesn't look like Nintendo's dropping any other IPs until Pokemon, and we all know Nintendo doesn't drop their prices. But I would disagree with a number of people that said that this is the game that's gonna sell the Switch 2. Now, I don't really think it is. It's a good game, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's good enough to have people clamoring to spend over $500 or $450 on a new system. Not yet. I think we're gonna get there though, but this for me just isn't it yet. Again, that doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's a fun game, but that's just my thoughts on it. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Have you played this game? Are you excited to check this game out? Or would you have preferred they did more like a Tropical Freeze type game? Or maybe you're just not into the kind of cutesy type games. I don't know. Anything and everything in the comment section below is much appreciated. I love each and every one of you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.